Do you want to cry in the Porsche or the Hyundai? Pick a car to cry in.
I got a last point.
All right, we're going to close this topic off with Alan, and we'll move on to the next topic. Go ahead, Alan.
Yeah, so, I spent a lot of time interviewing women. And love your channel. Appreciate it. And part of the issue that I run into is that a lot of women think they're Michael Vick.
Really?
Let me explain. They think they run a 4.240. And because they run a 4.240, they don't have to come to practice.
Practice?
So,
we talking about practice?
Exactly. So I've been encouraging women to be more like Tom Brady. Tom Brady went in the 7th round of the draft, right? And because he understood he didn't run fast, he didn't jump high, he could improve other qualities of himself. So I think to Shannon's point, value is about metrics, right? Quality can't be measured, right? So you can be both, but we can't keep telling our kids they won first place if they didn't. Right, so that's pretty much what it is. We can make that distinction, and it's okay. You could be a non-high value man and be a great man, and vice versa.
All right. You guys are just tuning in. Welcome to King Talk. Glad to have you guys in our presence. Make sure you get the likes up if you are watching via stream. Let's get a hand clap, man. That was the first topic.
Yeah, clap it up for yourselves. Thank y'all for coming.
Yeah. Ladies, y'all looking good out there in the chat. I see y'all chat ninja-lets.
Hey, JR, over here, we got a good looking one. And she.
Oh, okay. Who was that? A she critique over there?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, she bringing that smoke.
Hey, slide on down.
Chat ninja.
All right, she got a question for y'all.
Okay, go ahead. She got a question for the Kings. Go ahead.
Hey, fellas. So my question is, what definition of masculinity would you say men should adopt?
What was the last part?
What definition of masculinity do you think men should adopt?
Should adopt.
The same level of masculinity that black women walk around here with.
Oh, man.
I'm just playing. I'm just playing. Hey, I'm just playing. Ladies,
that was good, bro.
Chill out. Don't fuck me up. I'm just playing.
Oh my God! You trying to turn up?
Chill out.
You trying to turn all the way?
You about to start throwing tomatoes at me. Come on now. Don't fuck
All right,
the
simmer
suit
down,
up,
simmer
nigga.
down, simmer down.
I'm just playing, lady. I'm just playing. That is a good question.
All right, anybody else want to answer that question?
Check.
One last one.
I think we make simple stuff difficult, right? So it's masculinity is not hard to define. I talk about man, husband, father, prophet, priest, and king. You uncover and unlock the characteristics and the traits of that, and that's the definition of masculinity that men should adopt. But we keep making simple stuff hard. It's not hard.
All right, there you go.
Great answer. Did
I answer your question?
Family feud.
That'll do.
Another one that all men should do that a lot of men aren't doing these days is assertiveness. So if you ever see a grown man talk to a young boy and the young boy gives him a handshake, oftentimes you hear men say, squeeze tighter, look me in the eye, put your shoulders back, put your chest up. Oftentimes, whenever I'm meeting a young man, I can tell if his dad's around. I can tell whether it's at a church event or whether it's at a public event. When I meet the son, that's typically 8 to 14 years old, I can tell if dad's around based on the handshake that he gives. And then if he continues in that soft, fishy handshake, I can pretty much tell where his path is going to be later on. One of the masculinity traits of the many that there are that most men should adopt and that we should really instill in the young men today. I'm not talking about aggressiveness, right? But I am talking about assertiveness. There's a lot of young men who aren't assertive. They're very meek. They won't look you in the eye. And that stuff will transcend into their dating world. It'll transcend into how they get hired. It'll let them be more agreeable when it comes to salaries in their jobs. They'll be quicker to quit they'll be quicker to give up stuff because they won't be able to battle in day-to-day life. So young men particularly, need to be a little bit more assertive than they have been in the last couple years.
There you go, Shan.
I would add to that and say that the men need to have a plan. Right? A man needs to have a plan of where it is that he wants to go. And he needs to have a particular step process and how he's going to get to that particular goal. I see and talk to young dudes all the time that don't have a plan and where it is that they want to go. And more oftentimes it's because they don't have a mentor. They're not used to knowing what that looks like, right? But the characteristic for me as masculinity, I would say having a plan, because if you're the provider and the protector, then you should be the one that knows where to go. And if you know where to go and you know how to get there, then the woman is easier to follow, I would say.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think one of the main things, just to echo what both of y'all said, man, I think the main thing missed with men is confidence. Most men walk around trying to prove something to women. That's just what it is.
Say it again, Trill.
Most men walk around trying to prove something to women instead of coming into it with a solid plan that a woman is going to jump on board with. They get with a woman, and I do everything to please her. I want to make her happy. I want to do this. I want to go get money for her. I want to drive a car for her. I want to get a nice paying job so I can attract women. Like, instead of just doing those things because you want to do those things. And I think that's what's missing. I say it all the time. Like, if women didn't mind broke men, most men would be happily broke. And that right there is part of the problem. Going back to the structure that he's talking about, going back to the assertiveness that he's talking about. Just because you don't agree with what it is that I'm trying to do doesn't mean that I should bend or I should adjust the track that I'm on appease you. And I feel like most men do that, especially young ones. Like, until you get older and you done ran into, a couple hurdles and you done lost a lot of money to women in terms of relationships going bad, then it's like, okay, now I'm going to move how I want to move. But I think if men were to adapt that type of thinking early, then they would avoid a lot of those mistakes and get to the path quicker that they're trying to get to. So confidence is everything.
Yeah, I would have to second what everybody said on here. I would add the most dangerous type of man is a man without a purpose. And what I've seen just throughout the years is that a man without a purpose always chases after a woman because it's easier than to look at life and then actually try to make something of yourself. So a man on a purpose is valuable. He has something to offer. He can build, he can grow, he has a destination, he has something he's working towards. And so a man with no purpose is always the most dangerous man because he's willing to do anything to find self-worth and self-value. So
yeah, I'll add to that and just say boys react, men respond. Right.
Say it again. You got to simmer a little bit.
Yeah.
Say it louder.
Yeah. Men respond, and what I mean by that is, like, especially nowadays, a lot of us have become pseudo-masculine. We've become emotional. Right. And an emotional man is dangerous because you're mixing testosterone with emotion. Right. So, a man should be able to process the information given to him and respond accordingly, as opposed to react, right? Reactionary people are insecure people. So, yeah, respond.
Okay. It seems like the guys feeling that statement, man. Appreciate it. Again, if you guys just tuning in, welcome to King Talks. Make sure we get them likes up if you are watching via stream. Let's get a hand clap, man. We're going to move on to our next topic.
Let's get it.
The gentlemen on fire today. I appreciate the people that have spoken in the audience. You guys are the brave ones. We're going to take some more questions from the audience on the back end of this one. So if you are brave, step to the mic. Don't be afraid. Cam up. Cam up. Yeah. Do we have any single ladies in the house?
Hey, we got a brave soda since you want to cam up, though. Huh? Ladies, cam up, man. Look at all these dudes on here.
No, raise your hand, single ladies.
They are asking again. Are there any single ladies in the house?
Are there any single ladies in the house?
I'm accepting applications. Raise your hand. Raise your hand. Raise your hand. Not high value, but I'm valuable, though.
All right. So one of the...
So based on
80K good credit.
A previous question about what form of masculinity men should have, I heard one of the statements was assertiveness. Now, my question to you is, do you think men know the difference between being assertive and aggressive? And if so, what's the difference?
I would say assertive is based on confidence, and then aggressiveness is based on emotion. And so when you have a confident man, he's assertive because he's confident in what he's doing. He's purposeful in his actions and his words. He thinks things through. And then, of course, like we said earlier, aggression is based on a sense of recklessness, a knee-jerk reaction. It's based on uncontrolled and undisciplined emotion. And so that's the problem, in society today when we talk about men, that aggression is coming from a lack of discipline and a lack of self-control.
I would say, you say, do they know the difference?
Right, especially when in relation to women.
You
think, especially in relation to other women, do they know how to be assertive with a woman versus being aggressive?
I would say no if they don't have leadership in front of them, right? Because that's aggressive and assertiveness is a learned quality, I would say. Correct. Because, for example, for myself, I didn't grow up with a dad, right? So I was very emotional, like in different responses that I would do. But when I pledged, right, like I had all of these dudes around me that would kind of give me an understanding of how to be assertive, as opposed to just responding because I didn't like a situation, right? And so most right now in Black America, basically, they're raised by single mothers, right? And so if you're raised by a single mother, typically you're not going to be privileged enough to understand what the assertiveness looks like from a male's perspective, right? And so to answer your question, I would say that most men don't have it because it's a learned quality from another man.
Humble Dad, I could tell you used to be a rapper, man.
Why you do that, bro?
I could tell. You see how he hold that mic?
Hold the mic.
You see how he hold that mic? He cuffing.
I would just
2
like
Chainz.
Can
Why
each
you
of
do
you, well, I don't know if every one of you need to, but especially, I would like to hear Shannon as well, to define the difference between the aggressive and assertive, just so it can be clarified what that definition or what that actually looks like.
Well, I'm gonna just parrot what they said. So aggression is reacting, whereas assertiveness is responding. So it does take time. It does take some. It takes some. What word am I looking for, Rilla? It takes some maturity for somebody to be able to respond to a thing. Say, for instance, because whenever you react, you're letting somebody else control everything that you're doing. And so, I hear what he said. He said most men. I believe it's most young men. I believe it's most. I want to add the young part. Most young men, especially today, do not know how to not be aggressive because all they know is how to react to things. And so, do men know the difference between it? Most mature, older men do. And this is one of the reasons why I advocate for young men to concentrate on becoming better versions of themselves. I love how Anton says that, because they need to be better husbands. You know, I'm twice married, twice divorced. I failed my marriages twice. And I learned a lot of stuff later on that I wish I would have known when I was younger. But I didn't know it because I didn't have enough time to be the guy that I needed to be and to learn the things that I needed to know. And so if you are an older man, if you are a little bit more mature, I would say 31, 32, you start getting into the land of wisdom. And everybody has knowledge, but wisdom protects knowledge. And so without that part, then assertiveness is gonna look like aggression to a 22-year-old. But then if you're out there trying to get married at 21, 22 years old, and then your wife says something crazy, now you got holes in the drywall, you're breaking up your car. This is where we see all the videos of somebody getting ran over. That's a lot of young people problems. You see all of that stuff. That's a lot of young people problems.
My God,
So
let me jump in
the
real
answer
quick.
is the same way. Yes, officer.
Yeah, let me jump in real quick, brother.
You outside. I knew you summoned
See how you
him.
do me?
See how he asserted himself.
He
asserted himself.
He got assertive real quick.
I was trying to save the audience. So I would say one of the dangerous things about being aggressive is that we've created a society that accepts it, right? So we started to condone it. It's become normalized. So I think when things become normalized, people don't see a reason to actually change it. And so I think that's probably one of the most dangerous things about aggressive men. It's actually considered to be masculine now. We're starting to define masculinity through how aggressive a man is. And it made me think about that when you stated that it's only young men, but in actuality, it's all ages of men. If we're talking about black men, just in general, there's a failed distinction between being assertive, having self-control over emotions, and then being lost in said emotions. And so a lot of reckless behavior that a lot of men commit is because they have no control. And they've blurred the lines between being assertive, because being assertive sometimes can also look like weakness to some people. When in fact, you're being patient, you're being understanding, you're trying to observe a situation so that you can so you can respond and not react. I think that we've created a comfort in the idea that you're not a man unless you are aggressive. You know, someone says something to you, and then now you got to prove your manhood by now I gotta raise my voice, right? Now I have to try to one up on you simply because you said something about my mama, right? Or, you know, your girl told you to go check somebody at the store because they're rude to you. And so being assertive will be, hey, sir, the way you spoke to my lady was a little rude. It was unprofessional. But what's expected of you as a black man is to go over there and knock him over the head. And so again, we've just gotten so comfortable in the idea that aggression is the proper form of actually handling situations instead of being assertive. So in my personal opinion, I believe we have to change the idea and then also look at reteaching the value of being assertive, being confident. And being assertive doesn't mean you have to be physical, doesn't mean you have to be loud, doesn't mean you have to be violent, because those things don't define what a man actually is.
So that reminds me of the movie John Q. Remember the movie John Q with Denzel Washington? And that pinnacle moment when he was on the phone with his wife, and she said, "Do something."
Right.
And hung up in his face.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say that, like, I agree with y'all saying for the most part, but I just hate the negative connotation that y'all attaching to being aggressive. I feel like being aggressive doesn't necessarily just automatically equate to recklessness. Sometimes aggression is calculated in certain environments. I mean, we are black men. Let's just call a spade, and a lot of us don't grow up in the, best environments, if we're gonna keep it honest. So sometimes you have to showcase aggression to get to a certain goal that you're trying to get to. Now, that doesn't mean I'm out of control. That just means I understand the landscape and I understand what it's going to take to get the goal that I'm trying to get accomplished. So again, that's the only part that I disagree with y'all on, in terms of it just being a negative connotation. Sometimes aggression is calculated. Sometimes, like especially in sports, if I'm on defense in football or basketball, whatever, if I'm on defense, I'm going to be aggressive to showcase the fact that, I'm going to dictate the way this game is played. And the fact that I've showed aggression is going to adjust how you play. Because now you know that I can't just do what I want out here because there's going to be consequences for it. So again, all aggressiveness is not reckless. Sometimes it's controlled, and we have to, admit to that. We can't just tie it all to it just being reckless. That's the only part that I disagree with y'all on.
Trill, isn't the best, like say for instance you got a defensive back that's being real aggressive, isn't the best opponent the player that sees that aggression and ignores it because he's in control of what the game is? Like what you said was sometimes his aggression is going to control the other player, but isn't the best players the ones that are not affected by that?
I would say yes, but I feel like those players are a minority. I feel like most people who see aggression, because let's just be honest, most men are not confrontational. Let's just call that what it is. I've literally seen men get disrespected on, in person, on platforms, on whatever, and just let it rock. They don't say nothing to it. So again, I feel like that type of person that you're talking about, that's just gonna see the aggression. Okay, I ain't fazed by that. I'm good. That is a minority. Most people see aggression and they tend to go around it, or they tend to go away from it because I don't want to deal with direct confrontation. So being aggressive, especially in the field that I'm talking about, can be effective in sports. If we're just gonna be honest, and in life.
Not just sports. I mean, think about it, officer.
Right.
In your field,
Right.
Additionally, mine, logic, all the veterans, in fact, real quick, veterans, if you in here, raise your hand.
Shout out to the veterans.
Man, salute to the veterans.
Salute to all y'all, right? But them as well.
Yes, sir.
Right? We work in fields where, yes, we have to be assertive, but a lot of it is we have to be aggressive, especially depending on what field you worked in, right? Especially you as an officer, depending on if you're a traffic ticket cop type dude or if you really in the field with that shit. You know what I mean? So I think a lot of times that may translate or may not translate when you come home to the household and kids and things of that nature, right? So we have to be extremely fucking disciplined, right, in order to be able to flip that switch from aggression to assertiveness.
But you just said it though. You said discipline. And a lot of times when we're actually talking about reality, a lot of men who are using aggression are not disciplined. And so the young lady who came up here earlier, she said, what's the distinction, what's the difference between aggressiveness towards women and then being assertive? Right. And again, like you just pointed out, aggression is good anytime it's controlled, anytime there's discipline involved. A lot of times the issue with people who are aggressive have lost control.